Research suggests Germany has paid over $89 billion in reparations to Holocaust survivors, with ongoing payments. It seems likely the U.S. paid about $1.6 billion to Japanese Americans interned during WWII, with payments completed by 1999. The evidence leans toward Black Americans not receiving federal reparations for 246 years of slavery, though local efforts exist. Reparations debates are complex, with some viewing them as justice, others as impractical, reflecting ongoing controversy. Germany's reparations to Holocaust survivors. Germany has made significant reparations, totaling over $89 billion adjusted for inflation since the 1950s, primarily through agreements like the 1952 Luxembourg Agreement. These payments include direct compensation, pensions, and recent allocations like $1.4 billion in 2024 for home care services, reflecting a long-term commitment. U.S. reparations to Japanese Americans. The U.S. provided approximately $1.6 billion in reparations under the 1988 Civil Liberties Act, paying $20,000 to each of 82,219 eligible Japanese Americans interned during WWII, with the program closing in 1999. Reparations for Black Americans. No federal reparations have been paid for slavery, despite 246 years of enslavement. Your view that reparations are justice long overdue, not charity, aligns with arguments that they address historical injustices, similar to payments for other groups, though implementation remains contentious. Comprehensive analysis of reparations. This section provides a detailed examination of the reparations paid by Germany to Holocaust survivors, the United States to Japanese Americans interned during WWII, and the lack of federal reparations for Black Americans for 246 years of slavery, alongside the philosophical stance that reparations are justice, not charity. The analysis is grounded in historical data and current discussions, reflecting the complexity and sensitivity of the topic. Germany's reparations to Holocaust survivors. Germany's reparations program, initiated post-World War II, is one of the most extensive in history, often cited as a model for addressing historical injustices. Research indicates that from 1945 to 2018, Germany paid $86.8 billion in restitution and compensation to Holocaust victims and their heirs, with additional payments bringing the total over $89 billion by 2025, adjusted for inflation. Key milestones include the 1952 Luxembourg Agreements, where Germany agreed to pay DM $3,714 million in 1952 exchange rates, to Israel for goods and services, and DM $450 million, $107 million to the Claims Conference for individual compensation. The 2000 agreement with German industry and government, allocating 10 billion DM, 5 billion for slave forced laborers, unpaid insurance policies, and a new foundation, EVZ, with EVZ paying 550 million DM, 248 million in 2002, to the International Commission on Holocaust-Era Insurance Claims, ICHAC. Ongoing payments, such as $1.4 billion in 2024 for home care services, with $888.9 million specifically for this purpose, reflecting the aging survivor population's needs. A detailed breakdown is provided in the following table, summarizing payments across different periods. U.S. reparations to Japanese Americans interned during WWII. The U.S. addressed the internment of Japanese Americans during WWII through the Civil Liberties Act of 1988, acknowledging the injustice and providing reparations. The program, administered by the Office of Redress Administration, ORA, paid $20,000 to each eligible claimant, totaling more than $1.6 billion. Key details include 82,219 individuals received $20,000, with an additional $189 Japanese Latin Americans also paid $20,000, and 145 receiving $5,000, accounting for nearly 99% of eligible claimants. The program closed on February 5, 1999, after ensuring comprehensive outreach, as noted in Justice Department records. This effort, detailed in the National WWII Museum, was a response to findings by the Commission on Wartime Relocation and Internment of Civilians, which concluded that internment was driven by race prejudice, war hysteria, and a failure of political leadership. Reparations for Black Americans, historical context and current status. Unlike the above cases, Black Americans have not received federal reparations for the 246 years of slavery, a fact underscored by historical and contemporary analyses. Slavery from 1619 to 1865 involved the forced labor of millions, with no compensation provided to enslaved individuals or their descendants post-emancipation. Proposals like the 40 acres and a mule during Reconstruction were never fully implemented, and subsequent systemic discrimination, such as Jim Crow laws, further entrenched economic disparities. Current efforts include local initiatives, such as Evanston, Illinois, becoming the first U.S. city in 2021 to create a reparations plan for Black residents, offering housing assistance, NBC News. California's 2021 state-level reparations task force, which in 2023 recommended a formal apology and potential payments, though implementation is pending. Academic and institutional actions like Harvard University's $100 million Legacy of Slavery Fund in 2022 to examine its connections to slavery. However, at the federal level, no reparations program exists. H.R. 40, introduced by Representative John Conyers, Jr., and reintroduced periodically, aims to study reparations, but has not passed. Public opinion, as per Pew Research Center, shows 30% of U.S. adults support reparations, with 77% of Black adults in favor, compared to 18% of white Americans, highlighting racial divides. Estimates for potential reparations range widely, from $1.4 to $17.1 trillion or $142,000 to $188,000 per Black American today, reflecting the economic impact of slavery and subsequent discrimination. Yet, implementation faces challenges, including political opposition and debates over eligibility and funding. Reparations as justice, not charity, philosophical and practical considerations. The statement, "Reparations aren't charity, they're justice long overdue," aligns with arguments by advocates like Ta-Nehisi Coates in The Atlantic, who frame reparations as addressing the unpaid labor and systemic harms of slavery and Jim Crow laws. This view posits reparations as a moral obligation, akin to Germany's and the U.S.'s actions for other groups, rather than discretionary aid. However, the debate is contentious. Critics, including some policymakers, argue about practicality, cost, and intergenerational responsibility, with 68% of U.S. adults opposing reparations, according to Pew. Supporters counter that the racial wealth gap, health disparities, and incarceration rates trace back to slavery, necessitating redress. The NAACP, in their resources, reaffirms support for financial reparations, emphasizing justice over charity. This dichotomy reflects broader societal tensions, with ongoing discussions likely to continue, especially as local and state efforts provide potential models for federal action.